Hey, Roman here from SerpSpace, and I wanted to cast another video for you guys, show you about adding keywords into the keyword buckets inside of the SerpX Cloud. Now, quickly before I get started with this, I wanted to use the examples that we came up with yesterday and use those as additions inside of here. Now remember, I'm going to say this, I'm going to preface with this, and I know I'm still going to get questions about it. There is no right and wrong way to do this. This is really your choice and what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of this goes back to the strategies examples I was mentioning yesterday that you can set this up however you want. So with that in mind, we're going to go back to our examples from yesterday. And I'm going to try and give you guys an example with the different category setups. So the first one is a pure niche example. Now with this one, this goes back to how you were trained to do keyword research. And this really is entirely up to you. You can silo this out, or you can keep all your keywords in one big subcategory bucket. Absolutely is your choice. In this particular one, I've got the subprime industry with subprime auto loans. And from here, there's some easy ways that you could start to classify some of these things. You could separate them out based on car loans, based on auto loans, anything to do with the terms financing or finance. These are very easy ones to be able to separate out. Or you could leave this as one giant bucket and have it randomized. Again, this is personal preference. You know, some people were trained on how to do physical silos, virtual silos. So a lot of different methodologies out there, and they all work in different ways and have their pros and cons. So this is why we built this tool this way, so that we didn't constrain you to one methodology or one way of going about things. So with that said, let's talk about the different ways that we could add in this pure niche example. So we're going to run back over to here. And I'm not going to use the quick start this time. I'm going to use the regular system additions. And we're going to go into SerpX Cloud keyword configuration. And we're going to press on add keyword category. Now, the first thing we got to do is come up with a container name. This is very important in the sense that this is your main category name, but this has nothing to do with the actual builds itself. It's just an organizational tool for your purposes. That's it. So because we're doing niche, you want to use the niche in some relevant way inside of here. So I'm going to call this subprime auto loans. And I'm going to specify, because this list is based out of Canada, I'm going to specify Canada in this particular one. Now, if you press save right here, it'll create this. Now, you don't necessarily have to have pressed save. You can continue working and then save later, but I just wanted to show you as an example. It's going to create this particular box. Inside this box, we're going to have our subcategories, which will be contained here. We have our variations, mandatory keywords, and keywords. And I'll go over what these are in just a second. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a subcategory, because we need to be able to nest everything underneath something. So if we were setting up this based on a silo structure, we would create car loans, and the last one, financing. This would be an example of how to set these three separate ones up. Now, if we were setting this up as one giant category, what we would do is then just come up with a name for the container. And I would simply call this auto loans, because this is more of the broad category. Save. And under here, add keywords. This is where we can set our variations, mandatory keywords, and keywords. So remember that this is all subcategory based, and you'll see the name of it up here, just in case you forget which one it is that you're working on. Now, I would not worry about variations so much unless you were doing larger builds. Variations is there because when it goes to create the category inside of WordPress itself, it's going to use the name of the subcategory. In this case, it'll be called auto loans, and it's going to use that on every single site that you build. Now, if you're setting up 5 to 10 sites for a particular niche, no big deal. If you're setting up 100 sites in a niche, if you're trying to rank for something massive nationally, this could become problematic, having the exact same category over and over and over and over. So this is why we added in variations, to add in some level of randomization for the category names. And in this particular one, we could actually use our loans as a variation, and we could use auto financing, use car financing. There's a ton of different possibilities that we could do in this one. So again, variations, for most of you, I would not worry about variations or overthink it. It's just a randomization function for the category creation inside of WordPress. So with that said, we'll move on to mandatory keywords. Now, this one is not so important when we're talking about a pure niche play. When we get into something like geo plus niche, or geo, these are going to become much more prevalent. This is really to make sure that you have certain terms that are included in every single build that you do. So again, this comes down to personal preference. In this particular case, there might be a handful of terms that we might want to reuse. But again, in a pure niche type of play like this, it's going to be less important. Again, unless there are particular terms that you exactly want to rank for or push power to. And in this case, you put these inside your mandatory keyword list. I've seen some people skip the keywords entirely and just put everything inside of mandatory. That certainly is another way for you to go about this. But keep in mind that we have these set up to build bunches of sites, not just single sites. So this is designed to be able to create randomization from the keywords themselves. So in this particular case, I'm going to paste these in. Now with this list, we have about 739 keywords. So with that said, there is another setting on the build out under projects. And what that setting does, and open it up real quick for an example one. It's under advanced settings. It talks about minimum percentage of keywords and maximum percentage of keywords. And what this is it's going to pull these two values from this particular bucket. So let's say that we were to have 730, let's call it 750 for simple math. 750 terms. So we're going to have a percent min, percent max. This is set to 5. This is set to 15. Do some quick math. Say that OK equals. Let's come up with this 0.5%. So it's going to choose anywhere from 38 keywords to 113 keywords per build that include this. So this is something to take in consideration when you're doing your builds. You could set this, a lot of times when I set this is something closer to 30 and 50. So in this case, 30. You'll see it uses, in this case, 225 to 375 keywords. So something to keep in mind. You have the ability to add in keywords after the fact as well. So if you go out to your dashboard, and let's say that we're running a particular project. I have no idea which one of these is actually running at the moment. because these were a lot of my test bed ones. All right, so you see this one has 203 out of 221 articles posted and 14 out of 221 alive. You could click on add posts here, and it shows me the remaining number of keywords within the buckets, so I can add the number of posts and reset the number of posts per day. So this allows you to, again, add additional keywords after the fact. So I wanted you guys to see how these things are connected as well, and the settings are connected to the different areas. So going back to our example, let's go back to inside the dashboard. All right. Now, let's say with this particular one, we wanted to include car loan, auto loan, car finance. Again, not particularly keen for this type of play, but let's say that we were. Save. And you'll see that it adds up everything that we put into there. We had 3 variations, which is correct, 3 mandatory keywords, and then since we took 3 from here and put it into mandatory keywords, we have 736 remaining. So that pretty much covers the simply just adding a bucket inside of here. Now, let's talk about some of the other plays that we can do. So with a pure geo example, and that's just being geo keywords, this depends on how big of a build that you want to do. So if you want to do a US sized build, or even just a state level build, think about how you're going to set up your particular categories themselves. So inside of here, you'll see that I set up this one as a geo network, and then I have states listed. I did this because let's say that I wanted to make a national build out for a geo play. I could go in and create them state by state by state, or I could set up multiple states underneath the same site. So this is really just a big container for each of the different states geo play wise. But the geo play on your subcategories may not necessarily be the way that you want to build this out. You may have clients that don't service an entire state, which is very realistic. But what they do is they might service a metropolitan area, like, for instance, example, Houston and the surrounding areas. Or if you were in Canada, you have the GTA or the Greater Toronto area. If you were in Tampa, you have the Tampa Bay, that whole entire big metropolitan area. So there are different ways to set this up. So let's say that you were doing a metropolitan area. I would call my main keyword bucket metropolitan areas, because that makes sense, right? You're building a radius style build. Go ahead and just include one build at a time inside of there. So I'll give you an example. What's an area? And let's pretend for a second, because I did not prepare any keywords for this, but let's pretend that all of these locations in Arizona are outside of Phoenix, right? Or the part of the Phoenix suburbs, because Phoenix has some massive ones like Mesa and other things like that. So we would include all of these different keywords inside of it. So let's say, pretend for a second. Special values. Oh, this is a fun Excel tip if you guys didn't know. So when you have a formula that's creating these terms, if you paste, right click, paste special, and then paste the values, it will remove the formulas out of it, so that you're just getting the terms themselves. Special values done. And then if you ever want to scroll down very quickly, put your cursor on the top cell, Control Shift down arrow, that'll bring you all the way down. You could also use Control Shift up arrow to go all the way back up. Some quick tips for Excel. All right. And let's pretend that this was Phoenix suburb. Put your keywords in. Let's say I'm not so concerned about variation, but let's say that ones I might be concerned about are Phoenix related ones. That way I'm including all the Phoenix terms in each of the builds. Looks like we found a bug. All right. So David reported about this earlier. Back in. All right. Have to have Brano take a look at that. But let's grab these Phoenix ones, put these back. All right. And then this is set up. So, by the way, one thing to take into consideration is because we are getting all the bugs out of the software. When this type of stuff happens, always make sure that you have your keywords saved to an Excel sheet. If you paste these directly out of your keyword research tool and something like this happens, you're going to pull your hair out. And I know that pain better than anyone because we build software for a living. So, with that said, always make sure that you have a backup. All right. Now let's move on to niche plus geo. So with this, examples of how to set these up. These are the exact same as the pure niche example. All right. The only difference here is that you may want to include some more mandatory keywords with this particular one for the areas that you really, really want to rank for, to make sure that those get in every single build because of the randomization features that we have in there. So the same thing exists for the database type of keywords. So with these two particular ones, make sure that you do that. And I think if anybody is in the SERPX Buyer Club channel, Carol Bell posted up something yesterday that I wanted to mention about with the plugin version of this, which is a slightly lighter version. And she was ranking number 8 with a niche plus geo play. And she had lawyers harassing her because of that. That shows you how powerful this is when you set up your niche plus geo plays. So don't forget about these. These are where you can really drive some serious traffic in terms of, this is where your money's at in the niche plus geo plays. These niche ones and these geo ones are phenomenal for linking purposes. So again, this comes down to your strategies and what you're trying to accomplish. We're going to do some advanced webinars. I'm going to do some more video walkthroughs of SERPX Cloud in general. But I wanted to get you guys started today with the keyword buckets and really think about, your strategies and how you're adding them. If you guys have any questions, please hit me up in the Skype group. All right. Thank you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.